The Halo TV show has been canceled by Paramount, but is it really canceled? We'll have to wait and see. I think a lot of people seem surprised by this. Mainly these, what I would call shill accounts on Reddit you and some of the comments I would get on YouTube. I don't find this particularly surprising. I covered the ratings every week when the show aired, and I explained how even though Paramount, the platform, was twice as big, or almost twice as big, from what we know of the viewership for Halo Season 2, it was actually still less than the first season. And that's just with me taking the most charitable possible way to interpret the numbers that we had available to us. As far as the bigger picture, it was a show that just butchered the lore, it disrespected the fans, it was incompetent at every level. They wasted the decent actors they did have, like Joseph Morgan. I felt like the team that designed the sets and the costumes and stuff did the best they could with what they had to work with. Obviously, the budget was substantially lower for season 2. But the problem for a series like this is the budget for the first season was $100 million. So even if the budget's smaller, you could easily still be looking at 50, 60, $70 million. So as of now, and according to this Variety article, they're saying that they're going to kind of shop it around, see if maybe another platform or streaming service will pick it up. I've seen people that are still hopeful, hoping that maybe Amazon takes it or HBO or something. I have no idea how that works with the contracts. I guess now that Paramount hasn't renewed it, that they can just do whatever they want. That contract has been fulfilled and they can just sell it off to whoever. As far as the odds of that happening, without knowing all the details, I would say it's not very likely that it gets picked up. I mean, the reality is, it's a very expensive show to make, and it's steadily lost viewership over 2 seasons. And that doesn't even get into like the fan backlash. This is a show with no cultural footprint. And I would guess that most executives would be smart enough to say, look, we'll buy it if we can do a hard reset or do our own thing. To me, that seems more likely than someone picking this show up and just continuing along with season 3. And the reality is, a lot of this backlash could have been avoided if they had just not been disrespectful to the fans and the lore. But, when you have the main actor come out and say, if you want the Chief to wear his helmet, the show's not for you. When they come out and talk about how they don't play the games, how they're calling it a different timeline, all of this just reeks of a vanity project. Even the image I have up on screen right now, this is Pablo Schreiber's, who plays Master Chief's, Instagram account. And you can see it says, "Wake me up when you need me." And the first comment is, "Bro, it's wake me when you need me." Like, this was just a vanity project through and through for these people. And I'm not going to sit here and say they should be diehard Halo fans, that they need to have 10,000 hours logged into the game or anything like that. But I don't know when these studios are going to learn the lesson of, you bought an established brand because that brand has a built-in fan base. And instead of just building on that, throwing it away and spitting in their faces. I mean, I'm not going to go into all the lore stuff again. You can go watch my videos where I cover the show if you're interested in that. And I did a 2.5 hour long full season review of the show. I covered the ratings each week in the different videos, so you can go check out all that shit if you want. But I don't understand this lesson not being learned at this point, especially when we see other video game adaptations like Fallout be highly successful. I mean, Fallout, I think, is one of those shows that looked good on the surface, so a lot of people had fun with it and kind of bought into it. And then it'll probably get gradually worse over the next couple seasons. And then by season 3, the normies will be like, oh, the show's not really good anymore. When you could debate whether it ever was. That's a whole separate conversation. My whole point was, they paid for the rights to use Halo. And the first thing they did was say, different timeline, throw it all out the window. And all of the Halo fans that I've spoken to said they either didn't make it through one episode or they made it through like less than 3. And they were like, no, like this ain't it. And just turned it off. And you're talking about a fan base that even now, where it's at a very low point in the franchise's history, you can see a 10-second Google search, well, more like 2 seconds, but you know what I mean. And the first result of Halo Infinite, which comes after Halo 5, probably the most hated game in the franchise, I would say, sold 80 million copies. 80 million. So this show, again, I'm not going to go too deep into all these numbers, but by my estimates, it was getting like 4 million viewers. And like, yeah, you're not going to win over 100% of the video game audience, right? Like you have all the people who buy the game, never touch the campaign, just want the multiplayer. But if you got even 10% of the Halo Infinite audience, which doesn't include the original audience and the first 3 games and ODST and Reach and all that, you could easily be having like a Game of Thrones type show where you have the big budget, where you have the special effects, where you have the epic story. They didn't even do simple things like use the music, cast someone who looks like Captain Keyes, bring in Sergeant Johnson, who's a fan favorite. Just very simple things that would have given it appeal to a lot of the gamer crowd that they paid for. So instead of treating the game and the lore with any respect, they chose to say, well, it's a video game. It's not really art. We can do it better. We want to tell our own story. And this is what happens. So I'm not going to go on too long about this because it's done. I mean, as far as we know for now, they're going to try to shop it around. I don't know what kind of budget they would need or if Amazon would say, okay. I mean, you would think Amazon learned their lesson after Rings of Power, where they spent like $1 billion and are struggling to even get a show out. But who knows with these executives? I mean, they do all kinds of dumb shit. So we'll see. I think the best thing that could happen would be for Amazon or someone with the money to say, look, we're going to buy it, but we're going to make a movie. Just hard reset. Or we're going to make our own show. And we're just going to start over and follow the books. You know, we'll spend $75 million on it or $100 million on it and see what happens. Because Halo, to me, I mean, I'm biased. Been playing it since the first one came out fucking over 20 years ago. But it's a story with mass appeal. Like, it has a lot of fun with itself. It has a little bit of camp, but it's not like cheesy. It has all the big epic moments. You know, the Warthog running the mall and giving the Covenant back their bomb and blah, blah, blah. The grave mine and the flood reveal. It is ripe for just a straight book to screen adaptation or even game to screen adaptation with probably a couple original characters fleshed out or added in or whatever. And it would just print money. So we'll see what happens. I think most likely this just kind of vanishes in, this just kind of vanishes into the ether. I mean, because the reality is too, logistically, if say they sold it tomorrow to Amazon, well, then you still have to wait for a screenplay to get written. You have to get all the actors and stuff back under contract. If they want to change sets or do different sets because they're supposed to be on the ring now in the story, I mean, you could easily be looking at this time 2026 before it's ready. So that's a pretty big ask, I think, of a studio to be like, hey, this failing show after 2 seasons, can you spend a shitload of money on it and season 3 won't even come out for 2.5 years or 3 years after season 2? So I think the longer it goes on, the less likely it is to get made, unless they can really do something where they just cut the budget to almost nothing and then it looks like dog shit. But we'll see. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about this because obviously I made videos on the ratings and the show and I've been covering it the entire time. And, you know, there's a little bit of me that's enjoying saying I told you so as I watched the ratings just stagnate and the budget was massive. So I'm going to leave it there for this one. Let me know what you think. I try to respond to the comments. If you're still here, like and subscribe and all that shit. Thanks. See ya.